What would be the impact if this order is indeed put into effect? We'll delve into that in detail. Also, a series of stabbing incidents in Germany are inflaming an already heated immigration debate as Germany heads towards federal elections. We'll get you the latest on that front as well. There's a lot more lined up for you right here on Race to Power. Let's start with the headlines. All right, starting with our top focus on Race to Power. After Donald Trump unleashed a storm of executive orders in the first few hours of taking over the presidency, the US judiciary is now gearing up to face a potential avalanche of challenges. In the first of these, 22 states are suing to stop Trump's order blocking birthright citizenship. Now, on Thursday, a federal judge temporarily blocked denying US citizenship to the children of parents living in the country illegally. What is more, in an unrestrained criticism of the presidential order of the US district judge told Justice Department attorneys that it was a blatantly unconstitutional order. The 14th Amendment to the US Constitution promises citizenship to those born on US soil. Now, the measure was ratified in 1868 to ensure citizenship for former slaves after the Civil War, and Trump issued the executive order to advance his administration's efforts to curb unlawful immigration just after being sworn in for his second term on Monday. Now, his order will deny citizenship to those born after 19th of February, whose parents are in the country illegally. It also forbids the US agencies from issuing documents or accepting any state document recognizing citizenship for such children. So far, 22 states and a number of immigrants' rights groups have brought 5 lawsuits. The lawsuit brought by Washington, Arizona, Oregon, and Illinois was the first to get a hearing. Experts are also warning of more impending lawsuits over the Trump administration's immigration policy. On Wednesday, the US House of Representatives approved the Laken Riley Act. The landmark immigration detention bill is named after a Georgia nursing student who was killed by an undocumented immigrant in 2023. Now, the legislation aimed at detaining undocumented individuals charged or convicted of non-violent crimes such as theft, passed with bipartisan support. President Trump is expected to sign it into law upon his return to the White House next week. After the passing of the Laken Riley bill, the United States on Thursday returned dozens of migrants to Mexico. Active duty military troops are in El Paso, Texas and San Diego as part of the first batch of the new forces deployed to secure the southern border of the US. The Pentagon said about 1,500 troops are being sent to the border this week to enforce Trump's order on an immediate crackdown on immigration.
We're here in an area of San Diego, just west of the San Ysidro port of entry, where not too long ago last year, up to 300 people would gather here each night and wait for days for the Border Patrol to pick them up. Now it's very quiet, and the Border Patrol is back to what they were doing years ago, which is trying to pursue people who are eluding capture, not just find people who would turn themselves in for asylum and get released into the United States.
Now, to discuss this further, Elizabeth Larus, president of Larus Consulting and professor at University of Mary Washington, joins me live on the broadcast. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me here on Race to Power. Pleasure speaking with you. Ma'am, can an executive order override constitutional amendments, as is being suggested at this point? Is Trump's order to block birthright citizenship, is it against the 14th Amendment?
An executive order cannot override the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is the law of the land. What Trump is proposing is actually a reinterpretation, going back, honestly, to the original intent of the 14th Amendment. As you indicated, it was passed to give a citizenship as whole persons to former slaves who were freed after the U.S. Civil War. They were only counted as 3/5 of a person for apportionment of representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. So the idea was they needed to be counted as fully persons, not as 3/5 of a person. There's an extremely important clause in the 14th Amendment. It is the subject to the jurisdiction clause, which means that is interpreted as you are here legally and you are obeying the laws of the country. President Trump is taking exception right now to people who are here illegally, who are having children, who are intentionally coming here to have children so they gain citizenship. As a matter of fact, there is an increase in the number of scheduled cesarean sections. That is a planned delivery and birth of a baby before this goes into effect in February, indicating that people really want to make sure that their kids are citizens.
It's definitely causing a lot of harsh decisions being taken at this point. But Elizabeth, I wanted to come to this point next. What the judge said that they could be mulling a preliminary injunction which could be issued by the court. Do you feel that would be enough, or would that be enough to halt this order? And if indeed it is halted by any which way possible, would that be a dent in Trump's, his entire paraphernalia regarding his crackdown on immigration so soon into his presidency?
Yeah, it is a temporary injunction. My understanding it is for 14 days only. As you indicated, this goes into effect February 19th, so it doesn't quite get us up to that date. It does apply, this injunction, this temporary restraining order essentially applies to all states, not just the 22 that brought it forward. And what this is doing is moving the ball along toward ultimately probably a decision by the Supreme Court. Because the injunction will be appealed, it'll work its way up the American appellate court system, possibly to the Supreme Court, where it will be decided if there can be an interpretation of the 14th Amendment to deny birthright status to the children of illegal aliens, or if it will stand as it is understood now, that you just happen to be born here, a minute after arriving, you're a citizen.
Elizabeth, I want to now come to the Laken Riley Act. Do you feel it will compromise a legal recourse which would be available to individuals? And can immigrants be deported solely on the basis of accusations without having a single day in court to defend their case?
Sure, and those are two things. Yes, it can compromise their legal avenues. The Laken Riley Act really puts more power into the hands of ICE, that is the immigration authorities, to determine an illegal alien criminal's status. One of the criticisms, of course, the Democratic criticisms, is that the criminals do not have the regular process. They're deprived of the process going through the courts. In the United States, people are considered innocent until found guilty. This just really indicates the sea change in the view of Americans and Congress's view of illegal immigration. Over the 4 years, we saw quite lax control of illegal immigration, culminating, honestly, in President Trump's election. It was his biggest campaign issue. And even Democrats signed off on the Laken Riley Act because they can see that American citizen sentiment has turned so much against illegal immigration that they're willing to go along with this.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me on Race to Power. You shed a lot of light on all the questions that I posed to you. It would bring a lot of clarity to all our viewers. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
All right, viewers, let's move further from here. With federal elections on the horizon in Germany, a series of stabbing incidents are inflaming an already heated immigration debate in the country. Now, in the most recent attack, 2 people, including a 2-year-old child, was killed allegedly by a 28-year-old Afghan man who has been taken into custody. The attack comes just a month after a deadly car ramming attack in the eastern city of Magdeburg and 6 months after a similar knife attack in the western cities of Solingen and Mannheim. Reacting to the incident, front-runner for German Chancellor Friedrich Merz of the CDU vowed swift action if elected to power. Merz has promised to order permanent controls at all German borders on the first day of his term in office.
Ich weigere mich anzuerkennen.
I refuse to recognize that the acts of Mannheim, Solingen, Magdeburg and now Aschaffenburg are supposed to be the new normal in Germany. Enough is enough. We are faced with the shambles of an asylum and immigration policy that has been misguided in Germany for 10 years.
Wir stehen vor dem Scherbenhaufen.
Merz's suggestion has received support from the far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD party. The AfD is currently polling second behind the CDU. In a social media post, AfD co-chairwoman and Chancellor candidate Alice Weidel called for border closures and the deportation of illegal immigrants. Germany's governing parties are sensing a stiff challenge from the opposition parties, pitching themselves as the best candidates for a post-election coalition with the CDU. Now, in a counter-offensive, they are blaming Bavarian state leaders, especially since the suspect was already subject to a deportation order.
Die weitere Aufklärung muss jetzt schnell sein.
The Bavarian authorities must explain why the perpetrator was still at large despite having committed multiple violent offences. Obviously, some things went wrong in Bavaria, which is why I find the reaction of the Bavarians strange.
Wir müssen erklären, warum der Täter trotz mehrfacher
Snap elections in Germany are scheduled for February 23rd, 2025, but government formation could take months in case the German people return a fractured mandate.
Olaf Scholz, das ist Ihr Applaus.
All right, let's move further from here. In Belarus, as it heads to presidential polls on Sunday, opposition parties have stepped up criticism of Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko, who seeks a sixth successive term. Now, opposition parties contesting against Lukashenko have termed the upcoming election a sham. The leaders say the election is little more than a military-style operation staged by the regime to hold on to power. Reports say all major opposition figures this time have either been driven into exile or they've been jailed, with no strong face to oppose him. The only thing to watch out for will likely be the size of the victory margin. The opposition has called for a boycott. The large-scale protests had erupted after the last presidential elections in Belarus in 2020. Then Lukashenko had been declared the winner with 80% of the vote. The result had triggered cries of fraud, months of protests and a harsh crackdown. Thousands of protesters were arrested. The European Union, that had refused to recognize Lukashenko's legitimacy as president, has hit out this time as well. EU watchers say the farcical nature of the polls stands out, claiming unabated repression by the regime.
The election also takes place in the atmosphere of fear and repression, which has been really unrelenting since 2020. We have around 1,300 people who are political prisoners behind. They're currently in prison, behind bars.
In 2021, Belarusian authorities had arrested an opposition journalist, leading to a wave of economic sanctions and flight bans. And this has led to deepening of Lukashenko's dependence on Russia. Lukashenko had allowed Russia to use his country as a staging ground for the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, but he had stopped short of sending Belarusian troops to participate in the war. Lukashenko is Europe's longest ruling leader and the only president his country has known. He is known to have close ties to the Kremlin, and allegations of violent suppression of dissent have made him an outcast in the West. Lukashenko has frequently been referred to as Europe's last dictator. And now over to Pakistan. In Pakistan, talks between jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan's PTI and the government have reached a stalemate. The PTI called off the fourth round of talks over the government's failure to form a judicial commission to investigate the 9th of May and 26th of November violence against army establishments across Pakistan. But a day after categorically calling off the talks, PTI chairman Barrister Gohar Ali Khan softened his stance and said that the talks are only on hold at the moment, and the party may consider resuming them if the government forms the Judicial Commission. Meanwhile, National Assembly Speaker Ayaz Sadiq has called for the fourth round of talks between the government and the PTI on the 28th of January. Senator Irfan Siddiqui is the spokesperson for the government's negotiation committee. All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik. Anas, I wanted to come to you on this. As far as the stalemate is concerned, how long is it expected to last? And also, if you could give us, what are PTI's takes regarding the judicial commissions?
Well, last question first. PTI says that what happened on the 9th of May and what happened on the 26th of November, both across the country on the 9th of May, particularly on military installations, and on the 26th of November last year against its workers were quote-unquote orchestrated, massacred by the state. That's what they say, and that's why they want a judicial commission to investigate into the events and the violence that took place on these dates, particularly on these dates. That's why it's very important for the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf to come out for their workers, to put up a show and a face in the public that they are not relenting on their demand. With that, the stalemate, I don't think so that it will last for long, primarily because the government says or believes that nothing happened on the 9th of May or on the 26th of November, and this particular point is just being taken as a delay tactic, as I would say, and I think an agreement for the commission would soon be reached. Remember, the government has called for a negotiation, for the fourth round of negotiations to be held on the 28th of this month, and they are yet to hear back officially from the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. You mentioned there that Barrister Gohar has indeed softened his stance, so that shows that there is still an opening and window for negotiating a political settlement out for political stability in the country. Shivan?
Anas, as far as the judicial commissions are concerned, you said there is very much a scope there of them to be formed. What's the earliest that one can expect? The fourth round is expected in a number of days now, but when can we expect the judicial commissions to come into place?
I think in the next 5 to 7 days, probably earlier, this agreement can be reached in order to move forward, in order to give direction to these negotiations, because Imran Khan, on his part as well, he seems to not relent on the demand of judicial commission. Previously, we've seen that such judicial commission have not borne fruit in favor of the opposition or the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, including the judicial commission that they had demanded to investigate into the events of the 2013 elections, and that too did not come out as expected for Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. So therefore, I wouldn't be surprised if this stalemate would end in the next 5 to 7 days, at tops in the next 10 days.
So judicial commission on the horizon should be sorted out soon. There is scope of that stalemate to end soon enough. Thank you so much for getting us the latest. That was Anas Malik, our Pakistan Bureau Chief, getting us the latest. All right, let's move further. Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, who will be the chief guest at India's Republic Day parade, has got a feather in his cap. 100 days into taking office after elections, a poll shows Subianto has an approval rating of 81% from Indonesian citizens. Now, the poll carried out by the research unit of Indonesian newspaper Kompas between the 4th and the 10th of January showed that 80.9% of the 1,000 respondents said they were satisfied by his performance so far. They said he had made a good start on most of his campaign platforms. 94.1% respondents said Subianto had a good image as president. And Subianto took office in October just last year after winning the presidential elections by a huge margin. His running mate was Gibran Raka, the son of his predecessor Joko Widodo. Subianto has beaten Widodo's satisfaction score of 65.1% after 100 days in power. Now, one of his biggest successes, according to the poll, has been the implementation of the multi-billion-dollar free nutritious meal scheme. The program had started on the 6th of January for school children and pregnant women. The free meal scheme has taken off despite warnings that additional debt to fund could hurt the economy. Respondents to the poll said they expected the scheme to be sustainable in the long run. Respondents had also praised Subianto's plans to give free medical checkups, renovate schools and build more hospitals. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has signed the contentious expropriation bill into law, and that allows the government to acquire land without paying any compensation. The new law repeals the apartheid-era Expropriation Act of 1975 and sets out how organs of the state may acquire land in public interest for varied reasons. Now, what does expropriation really mean? It is the act of a government claiming privately owned property against the wishes of the actual owners, mainly to be used for the benefit of the general public. The debate over land expropriation has been contentious in South Africa. Some sections of the society have called it a direct attack on the constitutional rights of South Africans. However, others, especially black South Africans, believe that the land their ancestors once owned should be given back to them. In a statement, the President's office explained what the act means. Listen to this.
This bill, assented to by President Ramaphosa, outlines how expropriation can be done and on what basis. This law will assist all organs of state, local, provincial, and national authorities to expropriate land in the public interest for varied reasons. In terms of this law, an expropriating authority may not expropriate property arbitrarily or for a purpose other than a public purpose or in the public interest.
Now, the National Assembly adopted the expropriation bill in September 2022 and has undergone a 5-year process of public consultation and parliamentary hearing. However, not everyone is happy. Some political parties have threatened legal action.
Democratic Alliance considers the signing of the appropriation bill into law by President Ramaphosa in an extremely serious way. This is an attack on the constitutional rights of all South Africans. The Democratic Alliance spoke to our lawyers and we got the legal opinion that this signing of this act is definitely in contravention of the stipulations of Section 25 of our Constitution. The Democratic Alliance will definitely do everything in our means to stop this act from coming into effect.
And there's more on this. Our correspondent Calden Ongmu has sent us this report from Johannesburg.
Land is a heated issue in South Africa. It has been for years and it will continue even after this. Now, since the president has signed the expropriation bill into act, what happens next? Experts say, first, Ramaphosa will have to face court battles. The policy war between the GNU members is not going to end anytime soon. Not everyone is satisfied and happy with the decision. Experts also say that President should extend its approach in terms of consultation and information sharing so that all members of the society are in the same page. Some legal experts have raised fears that this bill threatens land ownership security in South Africa. They have pointed out technicalities in the law which have been misconstrued. However, for now, President and his party, ANC, that's the African National Congress, seems to be happy. ANC says this will create opportunities for economic inclusion and development while ensuring the rights of property owners are respected. This is Calden Ongmu from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
All right, viewers, that's a wrap on this edition of Race to Power. Thank you so much for tuning in. Slipping into a short break now. Stay with us. This is WION. I'm Shivan Chalna.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
This week on Check It Out, we talk about the rise of AI-powered pets. We also give you a sneak peek into the 2025 India Auto Expo and find out how technology is transforming the retail industry. All this and more on WION World is One at these times.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now at yo1.com.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
And welcome back, viewers. You're watching Fine Print. I'm Shivat Janna. Lots to unpack. Let's start with the headlines. Kremlin says Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready to hold a phone call with US President Donald Trump, and Moscow is waiting for word from Washington that it is ready as well. Storm WION barrels in from the Atlantic, causing havoc across Ireland, Northern Ireland and Scotland, and leaving hundreds of thousands of homes without power. Flights grounded, schools shut. Afghanistan's Taliban government says an arrest warrant sought by the International Criminal Court for its leader Haibatullah Akhundzada is politically motivated. Hamas says it will release by this evening the names of the 4 hostages who will be released next on Saturday. This will be part of the second hostage prisoner exchange under the ceasefire with Israel. Britain's competition regulator says Google has agreed to significant changes to tackling fake online reviews of UK services and products posted on the US giant's platform.